Well, on this Father's Day weekend, we always like to talk about making life easier for Dad.
That's
and
right.
one of those things, Brian, would be, happy Father's Day, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
would be some shade trees. And TLC has an enormous selection of shade trees. And trees are they're just good for you, aren't they?
Yeah, trees do everything great for the environment. Well, last week we looked at my absolute favorite use for a tree is we hung a hammock on one. I took a nap in the hammock. That's a great use of trees.
You only woke up a day or two ago, right?
And the other things they do is they take out pollution from the air. They turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. They shade our homes and help us to conserve energy.
Yeah, and planted on the right side of the house, it can make a huge difference.
Right on the south or west side of the house, they really can save you a lot of money on your heating and your cooling bills. And so trees do everything great for the environment. Plants in general do everything great for the environment. Some other things is it's a proven fact that if you have a street with shops on it and it's a treed street, people will stay and shop longer than if their sun's beating down on them. So it's good for the city and for the community as well, not just for people.
Well, you don't have to convince me, that's for sure. I know, but that's true,
right.
the benefit.
And last week we talked about big trees that you could put something on. Well, this week we're going to talk more about ornamental trees and pretty trees that you can have in your yard just to look at and to enjoy.
So would this be, so these are smaller generally in stature?
In general, smaller and a little bit more ornamental and not as much enormous shade trees today.
Well, what do we want to start with?
We want to start with desert willow, which is over the top of us. This is a beautiful tree. This thing is planted out in our parking lot. It's a south-facing parking lot surrounded by asphalt. And this thing blooms all summer long regardless. Last year when it was 110 degrees, this plant had several thousand flowers in full bloom. And so desert willow just never stops blooming. It's one of the most heat and drought tolerant plants and the easiest plant you'll ever grow.
This particular variety is called Timeless Beauty.
Timeless Beauty.
And did it come from Mexico?
They grow it all the way down into Mexico,
Right.
but they also grow all the way up into Arizona and into the United States as well.
So heat and drought tolerant to the max.
Desert type plant. Yeah,
Okay.
They really like it hot, they really like it dry. In fact, this particular plant, it was a clay situation, and so I raised it up with these rocks and planted it above the grade of soil. And it's in my, what I call my desert bed, because it's full of cactus and yucca and all kinds of other plants that just love it hot and dry.
Well, it sure is showing off. It looks great.
And speaking of loving it hot and dry, this is chase tree or vitex. And great for the butterflies, great for the hummingbirds, but it's also beautiful all summer long. It blooms all summer long. This one has been grown as a shrub. The one next to it's been grown as a tree. It's the same thing, just a different way of growing it.
And that does the hotter it gets in the middle of the summertime, where a lot of things are kind of falling out.
That's right.
It comes on strong.
That's right. It does better the hotter that it gets. And the birds will also come and it gets a little seed after it gets done with the flower. It gets a small seed on it, and the small birds like finches, chickadees, they will come and eat the seed off of the plant. Cardinals as well like the seed.
So next to it looks like the old crepe myrtle. I love those.
This is just good old crepe myrtle, and I wanted to put it in there as an ornamental tree because this crepe myrtle gets 20 feet tall. And a lot of people think of crepe myrtle as a shrub, but it all depends on how you trim it. If you are taking the bottom branches off and limbing it up, then you can make it a tree. If you just shear it from the top, you can make it into just an enormous shrub. Some other things I like about crepe myrtle is as they get older, the bark starts to peel and mottle, and they just have a lot of character, especially if they're pruned properly and you don't misprune them. And we'll get in on that on another segment.
No crepe murder.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want to do any crepe murder.
And what do you have next to it?
Next to it is crabapple. And crabapple has a beautiful flower in the springtime. It's a pink flower. And then it's followed by these red berries, which will mature in the wintertime, great for the birds. This is a plant you don't want to put by the patio or deck or driveway because it will drop these crab apples. And so it could be a mess. You want to put it out in the yard where it drops the crab apples that go into the lawn. Then it's not a problem.
But boy, in springtime, they are spectacular.
Beautiful in the spring, and then they have the red berries for the winter, and the new growth is also red. So they have a red interest in the summertime as well. So it's just a very multi-seasonal plant.
Looks like a magnolia.
Good old southern magnolia, and evergreen, extremely durable, and big white flowers all summer long. Another thing I like about the southern magnolia flower is it's very fragrant. It smells very clean. I really enjoy the fragrance, and you can cut them off and bring them in and put them in water, and they just look great inside as well.
And this is a weeping form of bald cypress, is that right?
Weeping bald cypress,
Wow.
yeah, that's Cascade Falls bald cypress. And I've got a big one here planted on the property that's just awesome. And what I like about bald cypress is it will grow anywhere. It takes water well, wet feet. It does well in heat, it does well in drought, as well as in just the soggiest of conditions. So it'll do good just about anywhere. And then this is a narrow version of bald cypress called Lindsay Skyward, and it grows tall and narrow. It doesn't get very wide.
And again, bald cypress, they really like the water. So if you want it to grow fast,
and they can
give it
take a
water.
drought. But yeah, if you water it a lot, it will grow faster and more vigorously.
Isn't this pretty?
This is some new varieties of red buds that I wanted to show you. There's all kinds of new cool varieties. This is Rising Sun. The new growth is yellow and bronze in color. And then in front of it, this is a weeping red bud called Traveler Red Bud. And it weeps over and is just a nice little ornamental, maybe for a flower bed. You could put it up close to the house.
You could do that in a pot too, if you had a sizable.
It'd be great in a pot. I think that's a great idea to grow this in a pot. And then this is another red bud. This is Burgundy Heart, and it has purple leaves. So red bud is taking on a whole new different look, and there's a lot of different options in red bud. A lot of these new ones need to be out of that hot afternoon sun. They will not grow, so you have to get your shade tree growing first, and then you can put the red buds underneath the shade tree.
So this is almost the same area where you'd put, for example, a Japanese maple.
A Japanese maple, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Same with this dogwood.
That is gorgeous.
This is an incredible dogwood, variegated, and it gets white flowers, but the flowers are almost overshadowed by the beautiful leaves. And this is another plant. It requires shade from that hot afternoon sun, and then good soil, good mulch, and lots of summer water. Although dogwood grows native here in Oklahoma, it grows in the shadiest spots with the best of soil.
Yeah, I can just imagine this underneath a canopy of shade trees. It would just glow in the dark.
Yes, it would really brighten up a shady area, that's for sure. And again, the flowers are secondary to the beautiful foliage.
And look at the combination of this next to that Japanese maple.
I put those there together because it was such a nice contrast to the purple color of the Japanese maple. And I just love Japanese maples. We do a lot of segments on Japanese maples, so I didn't want to do too much on Japanese maples, but I just love the foliage. Again, it should be in the shade from the hot afternoon sun, and it should be protected from the hot afternoon sun. I like to protect them from the wind as well.
And do they need a little bit more acidic soil?
They like it a little bit more acidic. They like it rich, so you want to add lots of compost. You want to make sure it's mulched. And then lots of water. They can't go for long periods of drought. You have to water them a lot in the summertime.
Man, you give us some great ideas.
All right.
And happy Father's Day again to
Thank you.
And coming up next, we're going to do Landscape 101. Stay with us.